All right, everybody, welcome back to Dave's Open Range, to Dave's Kitchen. We are going to make scalloped potatoes, or probably more properly known as potatoes au gratin, because there's cheese. Everybody's got a different way to do this, but we like to do it this way, and we'll try to make this short. We'll see, but these are pre-boiled, and so I'm going to peel them with the blunt part of a butter knife. And there's obviously lots of ways to peel a potato, but since these are pre-boiled, the skin just comes right off. I'm really scraping it. I'm not peeling it necessarily. And pre-boiling the potatoes is really key to my method of this dish. I mean, there's, like I said, there's a lot of ways to make it, but if I pre-boil the potatoes, then I can control exactly how, I can make sure they're fully cooked. If you put them in sliced and they're not cooked, you run the risk of them getting undercooked once you bake the dish, and that's just gross. So since these are pre-boiled, it's not possible for them to be undercooked. And while I say they're pre-boiled, they're barely done, and they're probably slightly underdone. But obviously, baking it in the sauce, which we'll get to in a minute, will fully cook the potato. But it's either fully cooked by the boil, or it's, 90% done, maybe a little firm in the middle. But I'm going to slice them up, and then I basically want to show you how I peel them. So I guess I could stop, but there's only one more potato. This is going to be a little bit of a small batch, which is fine. Then it won't take forever to bake. So I'm just using cheddar cheese and regular cheapo store-bought ham. Nothing special. I like higher quality ham than what I have, but it is what it is. So potatoes are done. I'll be back with you momentarily, and we'll get to the sauce. Okay, basically this is going to be a pretty simple white sauce with cheese in it. This is a half a stick of butter, already melted. You don't need to see that. And into that, we're going to make a roux. So we're going to put some flour, and I'm going to guesstimate how much I put in here. That's what I'm looking for, is sort of a pasty, with a wire whisk, a pasty slurry roux. So you can maybe see that's way too liquidy. So this is going to wind up being probably a quarter of a cup, maybe 3/8, something, I'm not sure, but of flour. That's really close. A little bit more. And it's hard to have precise measurements because it depends on how much butter. This is real butter, not margarine. So that's going to do. See if I can get that. So that's sort of a thick paste. And I'm going to let that cook for just 30 seconds or so. And then I'm going to put regular 2% milk, salt and pepper, no other spices. You can put whatever you want in there, obviously, but I'm going to keep it fairly simple, so salt and pepper. And so once I put the milk in, I'm not going to be able to take a little bit too long to film the whole darn thing, but it'll take about 10 minutes to thicken up, but we'll show that. So that's bubbling, as you maybe can see or hear. And this is just 2% milk, and I'm going to whisk it as I put it in. It won't be lumpy, guaranteed. And once you put it in, you can't take it out. So I'm going to leave it at, that's not enough milk, but I'm going to just let that thicken first and then go from there. So now that I got the milk in, I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit so it doesn't take forever. And I'm going to put in some black pepper, call it somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 teaspoon. Don't need a lot of salt because of the ham and the cheese, but 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And going to let that get started. And so I'm going to just slice these potatoes. They're a little bit brittle and might want to come apart, but I'm going to just, you can tell they're pre-cooked. Extra thick slices, really, because if I tried to cut them thin, they may just sort of fall apart. So those are 1/4 inch, or maybe 3/8 in some cases, but like I said, they're already cooked. So if these weren't cooked, there's no way they would ever cook through that thickness. So that's why it's okay for them to be thick, because they're already cooked. One more and we'll take a peek at this sauce. It might be thickening up a little bit. It happens pretty quick until you get a lot of volume in there. So you really should whisk it, not constantly, but frequently. And it's pretty close to putting more milk in, but so this doesn't take too long on video, I'm going to just shut this down for a second. I'll bring you back when it's done or close. It'll be a few minutes, but I'll let you know. So it's been about just 1 minute or so since I shut the camera off, and you can see it's thick. It's too thick, which is good. That's about like gravy right there. And so now I'm really just thinning it up. And you can, once it bubbles, I should say, once it bubbles, it will not get thicker, pretty much. Once it bubbles, that's as thick as it gets. So that's a pretty good clue. So this is gonna be about perfect. It's still the hair thick, so it'll thicken up when you bake it. So you don't wanna start with it too thick, then it's just gloppy. And since this isn't a huge batch, we don't need a ton. And so this is gonna wind up being probably 3 cups or so, maybe 4 of sauce. And so it's about to bubble again, at which point it'll be done, and we will throw in about, I don't know what that is, but 3/4 cup or so of shredded cheddar. Nothing special, just basic grocery store cheddar. So that's gonna be super good. Basically, you're making gravy, making a roux, putting milk in there. If this were Thanksgiving, I'd put beef stock or turkey stock, and go from there. So a sauce is a sauce to an extent. And so, again, so this doesn't get too long. Let me just shut down and then I'll bring you back in a minute. All right, that's got a slight bubble to it. It has been 1 or 2 minutes since I shut the camera off. And I'm gonna call that perfect. And in goes the cheese. It's always kind of fun to put the cheese in and just stir it in. It obviously melts relatively right away, and now you got yourself a cheese sauce. And again, any kind of cheese you like. Sometimes I like a smoked cheddar or something a little smoky, but that depends on the ham you're using. You can take this whatever direction you want, but that is a super basic and just about perfect cheese sauce right there. Put that on pasta if you want to. Okay, heat off. Sauce is done. Now, a spoon would help. Now we're just gonna layer up. Let's see if I can get this on camera here. Layer up our dish. So put a little sauce in the bottom and cover the bottom a little bit, and then layer of potatoes, sort of to cover the sauce, and handful of ham. How can this be bad? You could put corn in there, you could put green beans. This is just a pretty standard basic start. You can go whatever direction you want. More potatoes. It shouldn't take too long, so I think I'll just leave the camera run. See, that's a real thick piece. I'll just break it. Like I said, I really like this method of pre-boiling. It just gives you control. So really, when you bake it, you're just heating it all up. It's basically done. But obviously, baking it is key for all the obvious reasons. But yeah, I just like the control. I've had scalloped potatoes where you put the potatoes in there unbaked, and that's really good, but it just seems harder to me, and there's more variables that you can't really control. So almost done. Just a few more potatoes, really. I wish I had more, but that's all I had. All right, so I want to settle that in, and that's about was a little bit of luck, because I think I got lucky, and that was about the right amount of sauce. So, yeah, what else can I tell you? That's about it. I'm going to bake it at 350. I like to bake it for I like to almost over bake it, so it's brown on top, bubbly, fully baked. It'd be gross. It'll be less good if it were under baked. So it might even bake for an hour. I got a little bit of extra ham, so that'd be tragic to not use it. So in goes the extra ham. Okay. So yeah, nothing wrong with that. 350, like I said, for an hour or so, and I'll show you when it's done. Okay, it's out of the oven. It's been, I think it baked for an hour, maybe slightly more. I didn't time it, to be honest, but I just wait for it to be nice and not overcooked, but fully cooked, brown on top, bubbly in the middle. Let's take a scoop out. This is risky in real time because I hope it's not too soupy, but it's been cooling for about 10 minutes. I think it's kind of important to let it cool. And that, whether it's luck or skill, that's kind of perfect. So no sauce slumped in when I scooped it. Yeah, I think I got it about right. So I sauteed some corn. You can do a video on that a different night, but that's really good. And give that a try. Not that hard. Boil the potatoes, sauce like I showed you. Winner, winner. Ham chicken dinner.